Okay, so welcome everyone who's going to be watching this. I am joined today by Eli Weber, who goes by the Kabbalah Guru. Thank you so much for joining us today, Eli.
My pleasure.
I'm really excited that you agreed to be interviewed, and I'm looking forward to having a great dialogue and exchange of ideas. So if you can start by introducing yourself.
Okay, so I was going under the title Kabbalah Guru, and now I'm going. I lost my channel, so I had a channel called Kabbalah Guru, and that was taken down by YouTube. I've been taken down 5 times, and now I'm working as Eli Weber channel, and hopefully this channel will never be taken down because we're being very cautious. But I mean, just a brief thing. You mean a brief, like a bio kind of, right?
Yes.
So I I was a public school teacher for 20 years in the Department of Education, New York City, and I worked in. My sound is going. Can you hear me? There we go. Okay, I worked as a chemistry teacher, math teacher, English teacher, music teacher, special needs teacher. I taught 3-year-olds up to like 20 something, 22. I taught all ages. I had a very hard time there because I'm a little bit too creative and too into education for the Department of Education to really, value me. So it was a rough experience. But I mean, to lead into, to sort of cut to the chase, what happened was I lost that job because I didn't want to get this thing, right? Mm-hmm. And before that happened, my administrator, who I really didn't like, told me to make videos for the kids because we were working at home. We were working remote. And I said, fine. So I made a video about my peach tree in the front yard. I had a peach tree that I grew from a pit. I'm a gardener. Among other things, I like to play with plants. And this is for special needs kids. I made a beautiful video about my peach tree, and the peaches were out. It was a really just absolutely beautiful visually. I mean, it looked like the Garden of Eden. It was just in the middle of Brooklyn. I mean, I lived in Brooklyn at that time. And so I made this video, and the administrator that I wasn't really so crazy about said, Weber, what are you doing here? You're writing a book. Just what's the lesson plan? What's the skill the kids are supposed to learn? And I was really just okay, I'm far enough along sort of in my spiritual journey that I don't really take things personal so much anymore. And so I just said, okay, so this is God's way of telling me that I really like making videos. They really don't like me or my videos, but I really enjoyed making this video. And I decided from then that I was going to continue to make videos. And then, I asked my son, who's younger, and he said, yeah, you could go to YouTube. And he showed me how, and I started making videos. And that was like probably already 4 years ago. And I've made pretty much a video at least one every day since then. And it just gets better and better. That's how I believe God operates, that you're in one thing and God says, let's check this out, and it sometimes it comes as an unpleasant surprise, like you end up in the hospital, God forbid, or, but it's like God has a way of bringing you where you need to go. So that's kind of like, I think that's a good bio. But yeah, I've done everything. I've been a carpenter. I've been, I did many different things. I was a writer for a while, and I'm a musician, and I like a lot of different things.
It's amazing how you were able to last that long in the public school system, being what sounds like a very out of the box kind of a person in a system that really wants to put you into a box. So how were you able to survive in that environment for so long?
That's such a beautiful question. I'm really enjoying it. Thank you, by the way, for this interview, Faye. I really appreciate it. But way, one of the first experiences I had as a developing adolescent was I decided to go to a survival program when I was about, I think I was like 14 at the time, and I went to spend 5 weeks at this survival program. It was called the National Outdoor Leadership School in Landers, Wyoming. We spent 5 weeks and we learned how to kind of like forage in the woods, but I just, and I think the way that this civilization is set up, that I just have like survival mentality. I think it's more like it's a cultural thing that we've all learned how to be survivalists. So I mean, they chased me around. I was like a mouse in a maze, man. I don't think I spent one day in 20 years thinking, everything's okay and I'll have a job forever. I mean, even after I had tenure, they always were after me. They were always putting letters in my file. It was just and they were always moving them around. They were always sticking me in the rubber rooms under false pretenses, false charges. But it was just, it just, I had that like thing, like, I didn't really think that I had any options. I just figured I have to keep this job. And somehow it was God just put his hands all over this thing. And it was just like, somebody would try to take me down, and it would just be like, they would get to like stage where, they had the evidence and they had the this and the that's, and it was all set to go. And then something would flip, and the guy was, and I would see the guy getting yelled at, and I would be like set free to another school. So I just had a continual adventure of being attacked by outside forces and God saving me for 20 years.
It sounds like you also have a good attitude about it. And like, even I think you just used the word adventure. So do you think that that also is a element that allowed you to survive as long in that kind of system, because you have a sense of adventure for all of this, for life?
Well, yeah, it's a sense of adventure, but it's really in its heart. And I don't know how I got like this, but it's really, I somehow got to this point where I accept everything that happens in life as a good thing from God. Like somebody was asking me this morning, I got ripped off for a lot of money. A lot of my retirement fund was ripped off by people. And I lost a lot of cryptocurrency from a scam. They were like, well, weren't you, I just figured, well, this is what God wants to happen. And, I have to learn from it. I have to, there's an expression in Judaism, Gamzu Latova. There was a great sage, and this means this also is good. That everything that happens to you in life is for the good. You most of the time you don't see it. Sometimes in retrospect you might say, you know what? Like I had a car accident when I was 26. It was horrific. I mean, people would look at me and they would cry. I was so banged up. But when I look back, man, that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Can you share what about that experience was the best thing that made it the best thing that ever happened to you?
What really made it the best thing that ever happened was I really had to I had to reinvent myself from the bottom up. I was completely broken. I had been going down a very dangerous path. I was very into sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and with my kind of mind, I do things, to the nth degree. I'm not somebody who like, I'll take up a little hobby. It's like when I do something, it's an all out. So even going in a negative direction, I do that with a lot of gusto. So, the thing that happened was I was completely broken, both physically and spiritually. I did not know who I was. It took me like really 2 or 3 years to be able to even talk to other people. I was just so emotionally destroyed but I basically, I got to a point where I was so grateful that when I was able to walk, it was like, and it gave me the aspect of gratitude. I started to really, I always look at the big picture, and that's my soul's journey. I'm a like a big picture guy. I'm here for to smooth out the, I'm not here for the detail. It's like my mission on earth is to clear up some big issues. Anyway, so yeah, so I got to reinvent myself, but I really like the first time I was in a swimming pool and I could walk with the water was supporting my body and I could actually walk. I felt like I was flying. And I think ever since then, I've just been like so grateful for just like, being able to walk, like, for example. I mean, I love walking, I love, just the simple things as well. And I just consider everything, I've learned in Hasidic philosophy, everything you hear, see, think, feel, everything everybody says to you, every difficulty, every great thing that happens to you, everything is a direct message to you from God, the creator, personal. And I just got to, and now I just continued, and I lost my job and they said, you'll never work again. You're not going to get employment. And I was like, great. I was like, wow, what an opportunity.
Break free of the matrix. So it sounds like that was a turning point for you personally, in which you were experiencing life through a different lens, where you were things that we would normally take for granted had a newfound meaning for you. And that, it sounds like, was maybe a catalyst for living a different life and a more meaningful and purposeful driven life.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I didn't even really know what that meant. And I'm still not entirely clear. I mean, no, I know purpose, but yeah, it not in like nothing in my mindset is like has anything traditional. Like I was raised by parents that were very outside the box in a really beautiful, loving, supportive way. I was just kind of going through that today. It's like my parents were always, whatever I was into, they were like, that's great. That's so wonderful what you're doing. And I think as a result, I don't have like traditional value sets. Like I didn't have parents that said, oh, don't do that, do that. I mean, it was just like whatever I did, even when I was, as a punk rocker, I was into hard drugs and they were always behind me. So yeah, and I wasn't raised with like traditional values. Like I became religious later in life. In my 40s, I became religious, but I was not raised in a religious background at all. I mean, my parents were very against organized religion, but yeah. So values. I mean, I basically, I have to do. I'm a hard-headed kind of guy. I have to experience everything for myself. So any value that I come to understand is through my own self experimentation. I don't take, I wish I had, the kind of mind that could learn, somebody says, okay, if you do this, you'll get that. But I'm the kind of guy that I just have to do it myself. I have to make my own mistakes. I have to learn my messages. I have to go through what I have to go through. And so, yeah. So I, in terms of like, do I appreciate the real things? I didn't really have any kind of structure in my early upbringing. So I don't even, I didn't have like parents said, oh yeah, if you do this, you're going to grow up like that. They never said those kind of things to me. It was kind of beautiful in a way. And I think the future of education is more like that, to help kids really explore their own soul's journey, and really become themselves and follow their own interests instead of like, as a teacher, shepherding, I mean, really not even shepherding, like punishing, like corralling them. And, what skill did you teach them? I'm like, these are human beings. These are not only they're human beings, but, and I especially include my special needs kids. That not only they're human beings, but spiritually, they're on a much higher level than these administrators, and I'm like, how do I explain to them? Like, they're like, I'm not here to teach this kid. This kid is here to teach me, because his soul, he can't move his body, man. And he's smiling his ass off. So, you want me to teach him a skill? Are you insane? So that's, yeah.
I have so many things that I want to ask you just based on this little exchange that we had right here. One of them is, at what point did you start to, was there a point that you started to feel this massive divide between yourself as an educator and yourself as a person, and how maybe they were incongruent? Because it sounds like the perspective that you have now on the education system is this recognition and realization that it's not serving the souls to the best of their abilities. So was that something that you had experienced as a teacher, or is that more now on the other side of it?
Yes, really, it's 2020. I'm looking back. I mean, I didn't have any wisdom like that. I was in survival mode for some reason. I was in a religious community, and I basically had surrendered myself. I made a kind of a deal with God after my second marriage. I had I kind of made a deal with God that I wouldn't pursue my own pleasures so much. I wouldn't pursue my own passions. And I have a great passion for romance. I love romance. I love, my great passion in life. I mean, to be in a love with a woman is like just, to me, is like the ultimate drug. It's I've done a lot of drugs, but it's to me it's a drug. And so I made a deal with God. I said, I'm just going to put all my own needs out of the way. I'm going to just try to serve you. And I became a religious Hasidic Jew, and I got married to a woman who was also on the same page, and we had a child. And after I had the child, I said, now I'm here to serve the child. And I basically stayed in a relationship for 20 years that nobody would stay in. It just was not, it didn't fulfill anything that gave me any kind of the pleasure or fulfillment that I was used to getting. But I stayed in a surrender mode to serve, the needs of my son. And as soon as he moved out of the house, then I said, okay, I've done my shlichus. That means like my service is I was in a surrender mode. So it was the same thing with the job. It was just like, I have this job, I have a family to support, I just have to keep my job. And even though they had me running around like a crazy man, and I was always terrified, I never, like I said, in 20 years, once in a while I'd get a relaxed day, but most of the time I was just like, what are they going to do to me today? And I just said, I was just in a surrender mode. And I just said, I'll get through this. I'll do it. And somehow I did.
Wow. So it sounds like you were really, I think you're using a great word, survival, but it also sounds like you were kind of like in your nervous system, very dysregulated. That's what being in a survival mode is. It's where you're dysregulated. So do you have now on the other side of it, any tips or tricks or things that you can speak about that kind of helped you weather the storm?
Yeah, I think really the bottom line is that I never questioned it. I just went for it. And looking back, it was a really valuable 20 years. I mean, it was really, people say, the idea of like, if you could do it over again, would you do it any other way? I would say no. I really valued it. And now, I mean, I believe that, we're here to learn. And I believe that, God wanted to teach me, you can do without romance. You can live without it. And now the fulfillment of that surrender is coming into fruition, because now I've left my marriage. I'm completely by myself. I mean, completely. I don't even talk to, I'm online all day, but I'm completely, I don't, and I'm like, I'm reaching a point now, and it's a point that I've been really struggling with for my whole life, where I'm at a point now where I don't, I mean, knock wood and all that kind of stuff. I'm at a point now where like I can live with myself. I don't need a sexual partner. I don't, I always thought I have to have this kind of romance, but after being in a marriage where that wasn't such a, after going from a marriage where it was all about romance to a marriage where it was all about function and serving God, I'm now at a point where I'm just like, you know what, man, I'm very happy without a woman. I'm very and I understand the nature of real productivity in life. And I'm just like, I'm all about getting the job done and putting out the videos, talking to the people, and following the pathway that God makes for me. I mean, it's just, if you live a kind of life where you don't have any expectations and you just say, whatever God brings me next, that's where I'm supposed to be. It's a magical journey.
It sounds like a surrender of the control. Like you really, really surrendered the need to control your life and all of the aspects in it. And you surrendered it to God, and the releasing, the relinquishing of the control brought you a lot of peace, it sounds like.
Yeah, and having that peace, I could put up with very difficult situations. You know, most people probably may not have been able to weather these, but I just was like, yeah, it's okay, man. I mean, and I really, you know, in retrospect, I can't say that when I was going through it, it was pleasant. I mean, I can't say that it, probably not a day went by when I said to God, you know, I need to be with a woman. I miss the passion. I miss the romance. I miss the intimacy. I don't think there was a day when I didn't beg God to give this to me. And, you know, and I'm a person who really is into manifestation. And it was just like, I just felt very clearly God was saying, he was saying, no, this is not your mission here. You know, you came here for, you know, and now I see, like, I understand that, you know, God has a real mission for me, and it's, and for everyone. And, you know, he will shepherd you in ways that you may not really enjoy. And you may think, you know, well, I deserve something else, but wherever you are is where you're supposed to be. And if you accept it and learn from it, I think as soon as you learn from it, you can move to the next state.
So well said. Can you share a little bit about what was the impetus that led you to decide you wanted to become religious?
Right. So I've been searching for spiritual fulfillment for many years. I've been on a spiritual quest. You know, I hung out, I did a lot of sweat lodges. I took a ton of hallucinogenic mushrooms and stuff. Did, you know, some shamanistic experiences with ayahuasca, and went to study with a guru for a couple of years, and just I had a tantric practice with my second wife. So I was really actively looking for a home. And one summer day, I was working at Vanderbilt University because I was a musician. So I ended up in Nashville, and I was married to my boss, who was the witch that I talk about. And I was sitting in my cubicle at Vanderbilt, and I was looking, and actually this is a story that I think you could probably relate to better than I've told this story 1,000 times, but I think this story is really made to be conveyed to you, because it'll make more sense to you than I think a lot of people I've told it to. But I was looking on the computer screen, and this was like in maybe 95-ish. Like, I was looking on the computer screen. We had little Apple computers, nothing like now. I was looking for enlightenment. I was saying, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to become enlightened? You know, I mean, you know, is there some kind of magic pill? Can I try this thing or that thing, or do some kind of meditation on a mountain? What do I have to do? You know, I had read the book Siddhartha when I was young, you know, or at an early age. And so I was on this quest to become enlightened. And a little to the left of the screen, I had a vision. And the vision told me, it said, what you're looking for, you're not going to find on the computer. And that, and until this building, until the temple is rebuilt, they were showing me a picture of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. I don't know if it was the first temple or the second temple, but they showed me people getting thrown off the high places onto the rocks below. I was thrown off the rocks. I think I was on the ramparts and I was thrown off the rocks. I was wearing white. Maybe I was a Levi in those days. But anyway, so the vision said, until the Holy Temple is rebuilt in Jerusalem, there was not going to be any real enlightenment. Mm. So I said, okay. And then the vision said, and I want you to go to temple today. So I didn't know, what I didn't know is that the day this happened to me is the day on the Jewish calendar called Tisha B'Av. I don't know if you're Jewish or you know what that is, but it's the day on the calendar that both temples were destroyed. Kristallnacht happened. It was a disaster for the Jewish people throughout the centuries. Tisha B'Av. It had something in the wilderness when they were in the wilderness. Something terrible happened on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, the number 9, and the month of Av. So I called the rabbi. The vision said, go to shul, go to synagogue. So I got on the phone. In those days we had phones, and I looked in the phone book and I saw Orthodox, shul, Orthodox synagogue. I called the rabbi up. I said, Rabbi, I want to come to shul. He said, today's not such a good day. I didn't understand that they were mourning for the Holy Temple in the temple. He says, today's not such a good day to come. He says, why don't you come on Shabbos? We have a nice kiddush, meaning you have what to eat, and it's in English, and you'll like it, but today's not such a good day. I said, no. I said, Rabbi, I have to come today. So in the Jewish practice, in the Jewish tradition of observing the 9th of Av, they sit on the floor with really, they're not allowed to wear leather shoes, so they all wear like sandals or clog, those rubber shoes. They were sitting on the floor with candles. Now, I didn't know. I thought they did this every day. And I walked in, I was a hippie, I had long hair, and I certainly wasn't into like fancy, I didn't want to go to a fancy synagogue. That would have been a big turnoff for me. But I saw these people sitting on the floor. I mean, they were basically mourning the destruction of the temple. And it was like exactly what God knew that I needed to see. And I was already into Kabbalah. I was already studying Kabbalah on my own. And I realized, man, if I really want to learn Kabbalah, I have to live a Jewish life. So I stayed there for, like 25 years.
I had chills as you were recounting this story. And I think this is a beautiful lesson, first of all, because I always talk about this with my viewers. If you get the impetus to do something, do not delay. It's timely, it's time sensitive. The message is for you. This story that you just shared is a perfect example. You had the impetus. And when the rabbi was saying, don't come today, you were like, no, I have to come today. That you were really listening to your own internal guidance system in that moment. That is unbelievable.
That's a beautiful way.
It really is. I'm telling you, I had chills while you were sharing that. Do you feel like you are somebody that does tend to listen to your own internal guidance system a lot? Or was that really like the starting point in which you did do that?
I think it's, from what I've studied in Hasidus, I think it's a constant battle. And they say that it's a constant battle they call it control of the small city, meaning, you're fighting, and they call it the animal soul and the godly soul. So you could say it ego and higher self, or however you want to call it. It's just that, at this point, I basically only listen to my higher self. Other than when I'm attacked by doubt. I still have issues with doubt, and that's a kind of a cultural thing that was put on me through the years, but I know what to do about it. I don't take it, I don't entertain it. I'm sorry, I forgot, I got lost on the question.
Yeah, I was just asking if you feel like you're somebody that does listen more to your internal guidance system, or was that like the starting point in which you started to?
No, I've been doing that all my life. Since I was a little kid, I was like, this place does not make sense, man. So I was like, so I was always of two minds. I was like the good little boy, and I was the like, man, I ain't doing this kind of little boy. So I've been going back and forth since I was born. I'm the kind of kid, like my mother would say, don't touch the stove because you'll get burned. I was like, I'm going for it anyway. I had to do everything,
I love that. And by the way, I am Jewish, but for my viewers who do not know what Hasidus is, can you share what that is? Because that's something that you just mentioned.
Sure. Thank you. I didn't know. Hasidic Jews are Jews that have they tend to be more mystic and more completely involved in the religion. And that's what I really wanted. I didn't want to get into a religion where, okay, on Sunday or Saturday we go and we do a thing. I wanted, my rabbi said, what do you know? What makes an Orthodox Jew? It's the totality. He used the word totality, meaning you can look at a Jewish person anytime, day or night. I mean, I wear my yarmulke when I sleep, but so the Hasidim, they're like real deal dudes. I mean, they really do their stuff. Now, the shul that I went into in Nashville was not really a Hasidic shul, but it had a Hasidic rabbi who was directly connected to the previous Rebbe, the Friedricher Rebbe. But Hasidus, they're different families, they're different groups of Hasidim. I think there are hundreds of different groups, but the main one that I'm in is called Chabad, and they are very into mystic teachings. So it was a very good place for me to study Kabbalah and study Hasidus. Hasidus is kind of like applied Kabbalah, but not applied as you would think. But it's like learning to recognize the difference between your divine soul and your animal soul, and learning to live. I mean, I've been reading for 20 years about, I don't know if I can say this. This is a subject I've always wanted to share with people, but I don't know. It's not that it's. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the world is really ready to hear this, but I think the world.
Bring it. My viewers, we're savvy to this shit. Bring it.
Okay, so this is a key, a very essential point in history that, and in our history, in our lives, that nobody wants to talk about. What do you do with horniness? What do you do? What do you do if you're alone? What do you do if your partner's not interested? What do you do? And we learned I learned at an early age. My parents said, take care of it, man, do it. And so I never really shied away from, I never felt shame. I just felt like I perfected it to a fine art. I mean, I can really, I can, bring the kind of, the climax that's, I mean, I worked with a tantric partner also. So I know, I know how, so the question is, in Hasidus, it says, you have to put that aside. You cannot spill seed. And in marriage, in a Jewish marriage, you are not allowed to spill seed. You have to give it to your wife. It has to be useful. It has to be used. So this was, I'm sharing this for the first time on a public platform. This was a huge issue for me. And I struggled and I went back and forth. I tried and I tried and I tried. Like, okay, look, I'm just going to, I'll just, and I was able to go through long periods of time where I didn't have a release. But, it says in Hasidus very clearly, if you want to gain this kind of enlightenment, you have to get to a point where you can control yourself. And it's been a real battle for me. But I'm just saying, that at my age, I'm older now, and I am so happy to tell people, and I'm sure this is probably for most people, it's not as much of an issue as it is for me, but I'm so happy to people that I can meet a woman and I don't think about what she looks like naked. I don't think about it. I don't care. And that's very new to me. I mean, it's like, I'm not talking like years new. I'm talking about like weeks, months, but I've finally reached a stage where I can focus on my divine purpose, which is to communicate the message that, that there is a God, there is a source, it doesn't have to be a God like, like this wicked, it's nothing like that. God is us. We are God. I mean, there's, when somebody says, well, what's God like to you? It's like, I don't know, because God's not outside me. God is me. I am God. I'm with God all the time. I don't, if somebody says, what does God look like? Is it a he or she? I'm like, I have no idea, because I don't, there's no separation. And I think I finally reached a state where I don't, I hope I reach a state, every time I get here, I do fall off, but I am really so excited about living a life with a godly purpose, where I'm here sharing the message that you are beautiful just the way you are. You are perfectly imperfect. You are made the way you're supposed to be made. There are no accidents here. And be fruitful and multiply. That's the best way to beat the cabal. I don't even like to call it cabal. Because I think that using the word cabal means they want to blame the Jews again. I call it the 13 bloodline families, which come from the country V in Rome. That's where the real bad guys are. The ones you know about are not the real baddies. The Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, they're bad, but they ain't nothing like the 13 bloodline families. Anyway, the best way to defeat the 13 bloodline families, or the Dracos, or the Illuminati, the deep state, whatever you want to call them, is to follow the first commandment in the Old Testament, which says, be fruitful and multiply, have lots of kids, do what you were meant to do what brings you joy, no matter what people say, no matter the old structures are collapsing in the heart of the sea. I think it's Psalm 46, that the mountains in the heart of the sea are collapsing, meaning the structures of our reality, the matrix, is crumbling before your eyes. Just do what brings you joy, what brings you real joy, not like sense pleasures. I mean, and I'm not, the other thing is, I'm not knocking sense pleasures. I think the energy between men and women is so beautiful and so important, that we have this charge. And in fact, I'm just going to tell one little story, that the Hakamim, the wise ones of years ago, I don't know when this happened, but some Kabbalists got together and they said, we want to change the world forever. We want to get rid of evil. So they did two things. They got rid of idol worshiping, and they got rid of the lust between men and women. When they got rid of idol worshiping, the desire for it, and that makes it so, like, we don't really understand when somebody says, why idol worshiping? What's the big deal? Like, we don't really understand, because in the old days people were nuts about it. It was a big deal to them. To us, like, to bow down in front of an idol, it's like, so what, But so they nullified that really incredible desire that people had to worship something other than themselves, outside themselves. And that was fine, and that's been lasting this day. When they took out the incredible radiation between men and women, the world went to sleep. The world died. The world died. We need it. So I'm telling you, on the same time, in my own personal journey, I'm coming to a place where I no longer need to think about it or act on it. But I think that it's very, very, very important. And I think that our spiritual leaders have left us down, either that or the 13 bloodline families. They've screwed it up so much that we don't know which end is up. But the feeling between a man and a woman, and this energy is beautiful. It's radiant. It's not an ugly thing. I mean, the Cabal makes it ugly. They make it into ugly things, but for regular folks, man. So yeah, yeah.
I think this is actually a great point to transition and to discuss your wake up process to whatever we want to call them, the Cabal, the 13 bloodline families, but just your overall wake up to the matrix and the systems and the way that the world is running that a lot of us have not been woken up to. Can you kind of share your wake up?
Right. So this is actually more recent, and this is only in the last couple of years. How did it happen exactly? I can't, I'm not sure I could, well, I do know how it happened. It happened, I was visiting my son's yeshiva in Cincinnati on Shabbos. They had like a Father's Day. And somebody told me about, there were people hurting little children and they were running the world. And you see, and I, like most people, a lot of people heard that this person saying that, and they're just like, oh, that's interesting. But I'm a focused person, so I'm going to focus everything that, I'm hearing a message from another person. To me, that's like God talking to me personally. So I started investigating the number 17, and I never stopped. And I mean, that's why my channel, I go back and forth between doing like research on with my friends, with my Kabbalah Guru, with my Eli Weber channel family online. But I started to wake up, and I've been really researching this for the last, let's say at least 4 years. And it is in every aspect. It is in the voice that tells you you're no good. It's the demon of doubt. It's, and these all have biblical sources. They have biblical counterparts. It's called Amalek in the Bible. It's called doubt. It's that which makes you cool to God, cool to your own grace, cool to your own genius, cool to your own unique quality that you share with no one, that you're the only one in the history. I always say this, you're the only one in the history of reality that can be you. So anything that takes away from that is really part of this monstrous, insanely murderous, conniving, thieving, emotionless, without mercy force that's been ruling the planet for thousands of years. And when as you wake up to it, you will start to understand. You will hear it in every thought in your mind. It's been, everything you see on TV, everything everything you experience, the way they make you stand in line, the way they make you fill out forms, the way they make you feel like, I mean, I went out of my apartment. I just came back from my first trip out of my apartment in like 6 months. I mean, I go to the grocery store and stuff, but I went on a real trip, and I saw people are like, they're like this, they're so beaten. They're so, and I just want to like grab them and hug them and say, you're so beautiful. I wish you could see yourself the way I see you. So anything that takes you from your joy, from your beauty, from your laughter, from your love, from your innocence, from your ability to see things like an innocent child, like, to just the wonder, this, to be like, kids can play with anything. And so can we. We can, and it's just, once you understand that the Cabal is brainwashed all of us for centuries, for thousands of years, in order to distract us so they could steal our children and do terrible things to them. And I'm not going to go into that, but you can cut that out if you want. But
I don't know how to edit for shit. So whatever you say stays.
Okay. I think I'm pretty.
But no, everyone who's watching this knows about it already.
Right. But I don't want you to have any problems with YouTube. But are you monetized? You're not monetized yet.
Not yet. Okay.
So you don't have to, they're not going to worry. They're not going to bother you. But I'm still going to make it kosher for you too. But these are murderous fiends, and anything that takes you out of that feeling about how wonderful it is, how beautiful it is, how beautiful you are, how you have everything you need and more, it is the Cabal. And so we are waking up as a collective now. We are all waking up, and where we go one, we go all. We're all arm in arm. We're all in this together. And if you wake up, that wakes me up. So anything that takes you out of your power, your job, I mean, Marriage. I mean, I hate to say it. I left my marriage. I mean, my wife is a very nice person. We just, I just left. I just said, I'm here to be for my son. I was here for my son. And when the time was up, I was like, okay, I have stuff to do and I can't do it here. So anything that takes you out of your divine purpose, and like my divine purpose is making videos and sharing the message of enlightenment, really enlightenment, of getting to a place where you can think straight and you can get stuff done and be fruitful and multiply, right? That's, I keep coming back to that. Fruitful and multiply. That's the first big commandment in the Bible. And that's what it is. Does it mean, I'm not saying you should like have children with multiple partners or anything like that. I'm just saying that energy, the energy of life, we need to learn how to embrace it and to embrace others and to encourage others. And like, okay, so I think like the most basic, if I was to teach a class in this, I would just say, just watch your thoughts, and every time you have a negative thought, just take a deep breath and say, that's the Cabal, man, and that's the 13 bloodline families talking, and I'm not going there, man. I'm going to have a nice day. I'm going to discover. I'm going to have an adventure. I'm going to like, everything's an adventure. You're right. You eat a piece of chocolate. I just cooked a meal on my stove. I only had a certain amount of time before this interview, and I said, I'm hungry and I need a meal. So I said, okay, so it was the adventure of trying to figure out what I could make in a short amount of time that would be really good. And, if you approach life like that, it's just, you won't even think about the 13 bloodline families and all the disgusting things that they've done to us. I mean, I don't pay taxes. I'm not getting a divorce from my wife because I'm not dealing with the legal system. And in the Jewish community, they told me, you cannot date. We will not let you date. I've been thrown off of Jewish dating sites. And I say, I don't care. I don't want to marry somebody who wants me to like go through that legal process anyway. So, I don't pay taxes. I don't own a car. I don't pay any insurance. I have health products, but that I invest in. If I want to do insurance, I buy. There's certain health products that I advertise on my channel if you're interested. But I don't want to go into that now. But you can live outside the matrix. I don't have any like retirement fund anymore. Everything is, in kind of alternative investment things. And, I'm living the life, man. I mean, you can see where I live. I live on the beach in the middle of New York City.
It's beautiful. I wasn't sure where you were, but the background there is beautiful.
I don't own a car. I can take a subway if I need to go to Manhattan. And I take my bike everywhere. If I have to go grocery shopping, I go on my bike.
Unreal. You have such a optimistic kind of attitude. And that was one of the things that I had actually had in mind that I wanted to ask you, which is what really actually drew me to your channel was you're talking about these very heavy topic, or what can be a very, very heavy topic, but there's always such a positive takeaway from it. So how do you keep this optimism even when dealing with or talking about a heavier subject?
Right, because what is godliness? Godliness is purpose. Like, so if I look at a woman as a sexual object, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm not really looking at her in a godly way. Why? Not that I should feel shame, because I'm not really looking at the woman as what is her purpose, and if so. When I see something that's negative in the news, it's just like, I understand that its purpose is to wake people up. So it's really a good thing. And I just don't get, like this happened and that happened. It's like, okay, I mean, they tell us, they said, this is a movie, right? You've heard that. Yeah. I've
fallen down all them rabbit holes. I did a video on 17, yes.
So they tell us it's a movie. So I still have people on my channel. They're like telling me, but Ellie, look what happened there. I'm like, they told you it's a movie. Mr. T is going to get arrested. I'm like, What, who cares? It's a movie. It's entertainment. You got better things to do. That's what I mean in the sense of purpose. So what is a woman? A woman is a house, is a home, is a child, is so I didn't really even know how to. I didn't even understand, if I'm looking at a woman and I'm seeing a body and it's not, I'm not looking at the godly part. Not that that's a bad thing, but the godly part is a sense of purpose. So when I'm sitting up here in my crow's nest making videos, like, I'm completely doing my purpose, man. I'm like, if I take a nap, it's so that I can get up and make another movie. And everything is really in my environment is geared towards producing information to wake the world up. And yeah, so I don't know. I think I strayed off from the question, but
you answered it, and I think you actually also touched on something really interesting, which is you're talking about like looking at a person as a function of something and not seeing the godliness in them, which I think the Cabal has done a really good job of with desensitizing us, where porn is free, where sex is cheap. You can go onto an app, you can find somebody, normalizing hookup culture, really to kind of perverse something that was intended to be a sacred sexual exchange of energies between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, has been so completely corrupted. And I think you really did a good job of touching upon that.
Yeah, I mean, this is just in my own personal development that I'm now coming to understand what a woman really is. And this, I'm not talking about like I've known this for decades. I'm talking about just I'm recently now I'm understanding. I'm sitting next to a woman on the airplane, and I'm like, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to get with her. I'm saying like, listen, man, I got work to do on my laptop. I'm not really interested. I'm not really interested in that kind of thing, because I understand purpose. I mean, godliness, really, you could almost say godliness is synonymous with purpose and with doing and action and thinking good thoughts, being in that quantum space, but actualizing it. Don't just think good thoughts, do good stuff. And it doesn't have to be all charity. It can be just, buying yourself a candy bar sometimes. I don't know, it could be a little thing. So
I love that you said that godliness is synonymous with purpose, but I think it's purpose beyond the reach of the matrix. Like, I think a lot of people who are still asleep and entrenched in it, they think their 9 to 5 is their purpose. That is actually robbing them of their purpose. That is the matrix literally sucking the life force energy out of them.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Yeah. And that's what they do to us. They put us on a hamster wheel, and they keep us from understanding the real beauty of creativity, of life and love and discovery and being like a child. Yeah, 100%.
So do you, now that you have your show, do you still try to wake people up on a one-to-one basis, or is that, that's fallen by the wayside because you have a much larger platform now and you can reach a much larger audience because of it?
Yeah, no, I am 100% about my purpose. So when I meet somebody and I talk to them more than once, it's all about educating them, and it's not as, you have to really meet everyone where they're holding. And it's not about beating people up with, you could try that, but it's not really going to do much. But you just have to really understand who they are and love them the way they are. But yeah, I wish I could say that I could turn it off and turn it on, but I'm 100% doing what I do 24/7.
Can you share then, because I know I think we've all kind of gone through that period of wanting to wake up as many people as we can, and then just feeling like, really, I'm going to throw in the towel. Like, people at this point in the game, they're either awake or they're making a conscious choice to stay asleep. So can you share a little bit about when you are, the example you gave, you're meeting somebody more than once, how are you speaking to them in a loving way in which you are attempting to wake them up?
Right. So like, it's hard for me to really answer that question because I don't operate in the level of consciousness. I mean, I don't operate on the level of thought the way people think of thinking. Like I don't, that part of my functioning is not, I don't know. I mean, if I said, like in Chabad, in Hasidus, we have many different words to describe aspects of intellect. But in other words, I don't think about things the way I used to. I don't, consider like the pluses and negatives. I just basically do what, I feel like I'm in a state of oneness, and I do what pops into my brain. So I can't say that I could really advise like a strategy, because I'm no longer really able to relate to that level of intellect. And I'm not saying that like I'm some great person or anything, but it's just like, so that maybe the answer to that is to become more sort of like pre-conscious, like to just be in the flow. If you're in the flow, you'll know what to say to somebody. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to tell them certain ideas or certain, like I have my best friend. She discovered the lobster platform. And she realized that it could be that we're going to make a lot of money on lobster. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's an investment thing that involves cryptocurrency, but when the current financial system collapses, things will go into a different monetarization, say. But she went around. She was like, and she has a job. She was running around to all these people, teaching them how to do this stuff, and then a couple months later, she realized all these people, just like as soon as she taught it to them, they forgot it. So it's like you can't push stuff that someone's not ready to get. So you just have to like just appreciate them and love them where they are, and not, let them change themselves. It's just, I think that, you can't push, you have to just be gentle. I think, on the other hand, I'm very not gentle with the Jewish community right now. I mean, I'm saying things that, I was on an interview yesterday, and the person decided not to publish it because me and my friend Gila. I talk about Gila. Gila and I are best friends. She's married, not to me, and but we have a very deep understanding of our mission, and we are co-conspirators. Both, Orthodox Jewish. I'm a Hasidic, she's Orthodox, and we have a sense of purpose together that is not, we're not, involved in that way. So yesterday we did an interview, and there's certain things about this that in my community, that the rabbis, and everybody else told everyone, go ahead. Now I'm finding out that they were sort of jumped by the 13 bloodline families. They were it was shock and awe. They were just, you can't really blame them. That's what another friend is telling me. But I'm very harsh. Right now, at the same time, I want to say that I want to be gentle with people. I am very harsh with my own people, because I just feel like we really fell down on the job, and we should have known better, and we should have listened to the scouts. I mean, we had scouts. I'm a scout, and I was telling them, you can't do this. This is not right. And they didn't listen to the scouts. They listened to the authorities. And this is something that drives me nuts about my community, is that they're so busy learning and being goody-goody two-shoes about everything that they missed this enormous, dirigible that came flying into their houses. You got a blimp in your house, lady, and you're talking, like, well, let's see, if I wash this way and I wash that way. It's just like I really lost it yesterday, and I'm trying to find a middle ground, but I really feel like humanity has a lot of splaining to do.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I always felt like the over attachment that some people have to their authority, and that the authority figures were telling people, whether it was a religious authority or a governmental authority, whoever it was, they were telling people to do things, and people were blindly listening, and that is going to be a form of a red pill for them later on, so that they can understand how they've given away their sense of autonomy to someone other than themselves, to someone, an authority figure, their rabbi, their priest, their school administrator, their government official, whoever it is, but that later on, this is going to be their own internal red pill where they can understand how much autonomy they have given away and what the consequences of that could end up being. Everything serves a divine purpose.
That is so beautiful.
That's the flow, you know?
Right. So it says in Chassidus that when we come into the age of Mashiach, of the Messiah, of the golden age, yeah, we will all go directly to God. We will not need rabbis. We will not need books. We will not need teachers. We will know in our hearts. And that's really where we are. I live like that pretty much. I mean, I'm not saying it to be like, bragging or anything. It's just like Hashem has guided me into a situation pretty much that, but what am I saying? That, that as we evolve, as we're already there, we're already in that state. It's just that we have these clouds over our heads. We have this doubt and this, this, like you said, these people that have robbed us of our souls. But as we wake up, and like I said, we're already there. We're already, the Rebbe said, the Messiah is here. You just have to open your eyes. And my whole community was like, well, what did he mean by that? I'm like, he means open your eyes and realize that there's only godliness. That you don't even really exist. You're just like a piece of godliness. So yeah, I think that's a very, very interesting point that I hadn't considered, that will be the moment when they'll realize they have to go to the Creator. That's brilliant.
So what you were talking about, the clouds, is what I call the veil. And all of the videos and all of my topics are where we're exploring things behind the veil. And it's because the veil there's so many different kinds of veils, but they all serve a different purpose. And while we're in gullus, if you will, or while we're being extradited and we are not fully in our godliness, one of the veils that exists is the veil between ourselves and our godliness. Another one is the veil between ourselves and God, the veil that's clouding our ability to understand that we're all connected to one another, and we're connected to not just each other, but to everything. And that we're also veiled in the understanding of that we are not our bodies, and that is the ego that's talking, but they all serve a purpose. They're all protective. As we are starting to ascend and as we are starting to wake up, the veils do become dissolved one by one until it's completely dissolved. That might be, you're talking about like the Messianic period, where there's no veil whatsoever, and we're all just living in our godliness and in our godly expressions.
Yeah, I just think you're right. It's like that vision I had on the thing. It says, until the holy temple is built, it's like we're already there. We're already there. I'm not. Why did I bring that up? But yeah. I mean, the Rebbe said, just open your eyes. So
yeah.
But I don't think I think that what the Rebbe meant is that we're here now, we're in the Geulah, and yeah, okay, so I see what I'm trying to say. See, I don't even, so
I love it. Your mind is so vivacious and so full of thoughts that it's like, there's so many different ways that you want to go, and I think that that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's because I've removed all the veils, or a lot of the veils, and that's really what it is. So what I think I'm trying to say is that that we're here, we're in the age of Mashiach. And that's what the Rebbe said. We just have to open our eyes, meaning we just have to like get, move, just gently push aside. And again, you don't want to fight with this force inside. You just want to like kind of like push it, gently push it out of the way. Actually, even better. You want to take it, you want to bring it close to you. And tell this force, I love you, let's work together. So you want to actually take that force, the veil, and embrace it and bring it close and say, you know what, let's work on, let's do some godly stuff together, man. Let's use this energy. You're doing this thing to divide me into 1,000 different pieces. Let's love each other and bring ourselves into a state of unity where we can work together and have even a better time.
Can you speak a little bit about who the Rebbe was? Because you've mentioned him a number of times, and there's going to be a lot of viewers that are not going to understand the reference. So can you speak to who you're actually referencing?
Yes. So the Rebbe is a collection of people and bodies, let's say of souls and bodies that kept a certain body of knowledge alive. They kept like a very deep part of mystic Judaism alive. And so the Rebbe, in terms of like who the Rebbe is, it was Menachem Mendel Schneerson, I guess he's the seventh Rebbe of Chabad. And he was a teacher. He was not only a teacher, he was also a person who could do miracles. He had no veils. He could, if you came to him, you said, my kid is dying of God forbid, something, he'd say, okay, do this, and I think it'll be okay. I mean, he was totally connected to godliness. And so, even though like now I don't live in the community, I'm like even more connected to my Rebbe. I'm looking over here. Here I am so far away from Crown Heights, and I'm looking at pictures of my Rebbe. I have pictures of my Rebbe and my son. But my Rebbe is it's like, it's like somebody who really was completely one with God, and he was able to help us. But we, people aren't always ready. They don't really understand. It's hard for us. One point that I was going to mention is that in the future, they say, in the time to come, which I believe is now, that the soul will actually learn from the body. That the body, because it's atzmus, because it's an actual connection, it's actually a piece of godliness, will actually teach the soul stuff. So,
What do you think then? That actually brings up a question that I have, which is, and it's garbage day. So if you hear the trucks, that's what they are. But you're bringing up this really, really interesting point that we will actually learn from our bodies. And that makes me think of the transgender movement and how that has been so corrupted. And do you think that has something to do with it, where it's a way of trying to further disconnect us from our bodies and to slow down the ascension? Because I think it's done. Nothing can stop what's coming, right? I think all they have left is a few pieces, a few plays on the chessboard of the world stage right now. But I'm curious your take if the transgender movement has something to do with that, to further deny us and rob us later on of the lessons we can learn from our bodies.
Right. I think that's a brilliant connection. I mean, you have a real brilliance. It just you have a way of putting things together that's really extraordinary. But I hadn't thought of that. Everything they do is about personal power. Everything is they use this for. I mean, they use it for magical purposes. They use it to promote their agendas. It brings them some kind of power with the demons that that they sacrifice to. So yeah, that's probably, yeah, that's part of their magic for sure. But would that interfere with learning from the body? I'm not sure I would make that connection, but I think it is. Yeah, I think you're right in that it is important that we honor the body. I mean, that's something that, like, that's another point that being outside of the community, I don't spend so much time in prayer. I mean, because I feel like my whole life is a prayer, but in formal prayer. But I do spend a much more bigger piece of my time like working out, physically working out, and taking care of my body. And I think that's an important piece of this this enlightenment thing is. And I was talking to a friend of mine who lives with a yogi, an old yogi, a very distinguished yogi. And she says he exercises every day. So yeah, I think the body, I think it's really important to keep your body, and find food that helps you think well and function well.
So I'm actually also a yoga teacher, and I did 3 yoga teacher trainings. I actually have a guru. And man, the things that I learned about discipline in relationship to our body, and the approach that yogis have in really treating your body like a temple, it's beautiful. And it is, I think as soon as you had said that, our souls are going to learn something from our body, it immediately took me to that because there is a godliness that is in our body, and that God doesn't make mistakes, whatever body we're given is the right body for us. I love this idea that it's because our bodies have something to teach us. Yeah. Even if it's just the limitations of the body.
Yeah.
But there's a takeaway in that for us, which I just love. I think that's such a brilliant idea.
What's the takeaway?
That our bodies are going to teach us something, even if what it's going to teach us is to transcend the limitations of the body. But there's a lesson in it for all of us.
Yeah. I just go back to the Baal Shem Tov, who was kind of like an early mystic in this period. In the last couple hundred years, he was in the 1700s, saying that everything you hear, everything you see, everything people tell you, everything is a lesson, is a personal message to you from the Creator.
Yeah. If we're listening.
Even if we're not listening, it's still a personal message.
Yeah. Yeah. We just might miss it, but it's there.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you could share, because you haven't even started to mention, the demons that they have. So I'm assuming you have an understanding of like the astral plane. What is, and I think, let me actually see the way that I phrase this question. What is the wildest theory that you believe to be true? The wildest so-called conspiracy theory, or the wildest, just the wildest theory.
I mean, I believe it all. I mean, I don't, I guess it's kind of like you're innocent until proven guilty. I mean, I can much more easily believe in time machines and extraterrestrials than in making a deposit in a bank. I mean, to me, that's, it's like, I'm like, really? You want me to do what? You want me to have insurance? I mean, that to me is like a conspiracy theory. It's just, it's completely out of the box.
Yeah. It's just everything that they want us to do is trapping us in the 3-dimensional. It's just holding us earthbound to a heavy, denser energy. It's taking our attention away from so many other things that we can actually be doing to expand ourselves and to grow ourselves. And I agree with you there. It's like, it's just complete, not, you want me to go to the bank and make deposit? It's ridiculous. Like, I want to hop into my time machine and I want to go somewhere. I want to explore another timeline. I want to go chill with like the dinosaurs, you know?
100%.
We like, want to be free.
We want to be fruitful and multiply. We want to do stuff. We want to have a childlike. We want to be kids again and play.
I'm sure there's so much that you actually can say about that in relationship to the experience of what it was like, you know, teaching children, where we're molding them, we're shaping them. But another way of saying that is we're actually, you know, putting them in a machine so they all come out the same. It's an eradication of the connection to the true self.
Yeah, 100%. It for sure is. It's brutal. It's a brutal not manipulation, but it's a brutal you're taking advantage of beautiful young innocent souls and making them do ridiculous tasks that really have no meaning whatsoever, and it's criminal. It's criminal. These are criminals. I mean, that's the bottom line. And I think the real thing, I'm going to have to go soon, but the real thing is that people need to understand, like a very important point is that, you know, I a lot of times I'll tell people about the 13 bloodline families and the deep state, and they'll just say like, yeah, but we have to figure out a way to work with them and all this kind of stuff. You cannot imagine, because you are a kind, beautiful, you know, merciful, you know, understanding, loving human being. We cannot, this is the conclusion I've come to. We cannot understand the depths of depravity and evil that is running the world for the last couple thousand years, at least. So if you think you're going to, you know, they and, you know, one religion, they teach you, oh, just turn the other cheek. That's okay for another human being. And I've even heard, Faye, that there's said that 70% of humanity are soulless beings. I mean, they're saying these outlandish things, but even those you could have mercy on. But I'm saying that we cannot understand the depths of the depravity of the enemy, and to think of it as like, you know, something like we're going to work it out with them. It ain't happening, man. They got to be. It says in the Bible that Amalek has to be completely destroyed. What is Amalek? Amalek is doubt, and you know, and coldness to God has to be eradicated to the point where we don't even remember it. And I think that's where we're heading, into complete freedom.
I want to just get a sense of how much time we have and how many more questions I can get through.
I think I should pretty much wrap it up. Let's see. I have another thing I mean, I really value this. I'm really valuing this interview, and I think you're an important person. And I think it's important that this interview is, you know, I feel like, but I've been traveling. I just need a nap. I need, like, you know.
I feel you. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
And we'll wrap it up actually with this question.
Okay, thanks.
What are you most looking forward to in the new world, where all the systems come down, where everything has been eradicated and we can live the way God intended? What are you most looking forward to?
That I won't be so alone.
Oh.
I know it's a weird thing to say. I mean, I once read in, like, I used to read all these books about enlightenment, and it isn't like I'm lonely, like in that way. It's just that, like, I want to see other people feel like I do.
You want everybody to be on the same. You want, you know, nothing to stop what's coming, that what's coming is here and we're all in it together, but we're all in it together being enlightened and without the separation, the division, and the veils.
Right. So I mean, when I approach another human being, I approach that, I come to that person as my best friend. I come, that is my best friend that I'm about to talk to, and the friend I've always wanted to talk, so I want to be in a world where they understand that that I'm also their best friend, that we're all best friends, and that, and that it just, I mean, I don't mind it the way it is now, but I just want people to be happy. I just want people to understand how beautiful they are and how radiant, and how everything that's negative in their life is just an illusion.
I think that is a perfect spot to stop it at, that everything negative is an illusion. Very, very well said. Eli, I am so grateful that you agreed to do this interview with me and for taking the time to speak with me. And I'm going to encourage everyone who's watching this, I'm going to link Eli's information down below. Please go check out his amazing, insightful, positive. That's the thing that really, really struck me. Informative, but positive the videos are. And thank you so, so, so much. I'm really, really grateful that we had this amazing exchange of ideas and information.
Thanks, Faye, and God bless. I mean, it should be, your life should be fruitful and multiplying. I mean, it's I don't know how much I'll be able to communicate in the future, but God bless you. And I have to say that it was a absolutely transcendent experience for me. I had got to express thoughts that I've never expressed before.
Well, thank you. Thank you for entrusting me with the information that came forth. I appreciate that.
You're awesome. Just keep up the good work. Just keep doing it. Do make your videos, do your yoga, bring peace in every way you can. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And guys, please check out Eli and his amazing, fabulous videos, channels, and information that he brings into the world. Thank you again, Eli.
Okay, can I say Jai Ma to you? Are you a yogini? I mean, do you say Jai Ma?
I would just do namaste.
Okay, namaste. Okay, namaste.
Namaste.
Thanks, Faye. I really appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Blessings.
Bye.
Bye.